The hardest part about leaving the UK isn't what you think it is. As I lay in my bed last night, that was the title that was floating round in my head. And for a bit of context, today is September 11th, a date that's forever etched in our memories for many reasons, including much of the news that will have came out last night and into the UK. But rather than focus on what everybody will be talking about today, I thought I'd share a slightly different take. And today is the 50th birthday of a good friend of Yvonne and I. And on Saturday, we had the opportunity to go into Glasgow and catch up with some friends. And my mate Stephen was there. And Stephen, if you're watching this, happy birthday, mate, to you. And we got into Glasgow to spend some time with some friends. We sat around a table with a group and talked about life, what's been going on with them, what's been going on with us, where we're off to, reasons why we're leaving. And we shared that with people that have been our friends for 30 years. And so I thought I would cover that today, slightly different spin on everything else that's going on, share with you how I experienced Saturday and what it left me thinking about after that meetup. It's a very autumn day here in Glasgow. Light rain showers, then the sun bursts out, it's hot and then it's cold. So I'm sitting in the park and I thought I would try and continue on this video. I've got a picture here on my phone, which I'm going to put over the screen in a second, that I wanted to share with you. It was a group of friends that we sat round that table in a bar on Saturday afternoon, catching up, reminiscing. And I wanted to talk about a couple of the people that were sitting round that table, just share a little bit of a story with you. I'm going to put the picture here on the screen and I'm going to zoom in, right? So one of the guys sitting round this table, I kind of credit in some ways to how I'm here making these videos. His name is also John. I've talked about him before. Yvonne and I went on a date in, 30 years ago this year. Our first ever date, and we went to a nightclub on the coast of Scotland, a town called Saltcoats. And when we were in that club that evening, I met this guy just having a chat and we became friends. And his name is John, my name is John, we're very similar ages. And John had a massive influence on me in terms of music. He taught me how to create a track, how to edit, how to lay down sounds, how to use samplers, keyboards and all those kind of things. And in a typical fashion of mine, that was me off and running. Now at the time, I ended up becoming part of a band with John and another guy that's at that table, Mark. And for 30 years, we've been friends. And we're the kind of friends where we catch up with each other when we need to. If Yvonne and I are back home, we catch up. And if we were in Scotland, we would go and meet up with each other from time to time. And we've lived in England now for 13 years. And it's not to say that we've drifted apart. The minute we sit at a table, like we did on Saturday, we're straight back to the old friends that we've always been. And I was telling John on Saturday, I wanted to share with him how much of an influence he's been on me, just to kind of get that into his mindset. Because sometimes, you know, guys, we don't talk about these kind of things with our friends. We don't share how much a friend has been influential to you. And I like to try and share that from time. So as we sat around that table, I was talking to John and I was reminiscing with him about a year that we went to Ibiza. And when we got home, John had made a video and he laid pictures from the holiday over the top of some music. And some weeks later, we all sat around as a group of friends and we watched that video. And I still own that now, I still have that on my computer. And I was telling him on Saturday how much that had kick-started this. Me videoing myself, talking to cameras, making videos, learning editing software, a new hobby that I had discovered. And the reason that I bring this up is I get so many messages from particularly men, not exclusively, but particularly men who say, I'm in and around your age, I'm feeling a bit burned out, I'm lacking motivation, and I completely understand that. And I wanted to make this to say to you, nobody is going to make you do anything. You have to be able to take an idea by the scruff of the neck and go do it yourself. And if there's people around that you can learn from, and whether that's just YouTube videos, an online course, or from people that you know that might share an interest, you've got to go and seek that out, because nobody will drag you into doing something. You've got to want it yourself. And that's something that I've learned over the years, is that when I want to get into something, I've got to go and make it happen. And I learned from John and Mark music, and it changed my life, because I became a DJ and I wrote music. And years later, I was signed to a record label in Germany, and I was working with a music partner in Cyprus, and I was able to kind of bring it full circle a little bit, where John and Mark ended up appearing on a track that we wrote, and now we have this lifetime bond, a lifetime connection together through that music. Now, somebody else that I want to focus in on this picture here, which I think is also relevant, there's a guy sitting at the table there called Fraser. Now, Fraser and I have probably known each other for 20 plus years. And again, I'll give you a little bit of a setting here. I met Fraser in a back room of a nightclub in Colville called Passion. I was booked to DJ there, Fraser was DJing. We met each other and we got on. And then over the subsequent years after that, we worked together making music. We would play together at DJ events. In fact, we actually had the same manager and promoter at one point, a mutual friend of ours who helped us kind of build our career. And at one point, Fraser helped me write an album, helped me visualize and bring to reality an idea of an album that I had. And again, him and I are now forever tied. And when we kind of dropped out of the music scene a little bit, when we kind of reached that age when we were stepping away from it, you think that relationships might come to an end, they might fizzle out. However, in this situation, Fraser went to work for a technology business, and so did I, separate companies, and our paths would cross all the time. In fact, I'm 47. On my 40th birthday, I found myself in Las Vegas at a work conference, and Fraser was there, and he was on the phone straight away, let's go out, and took me out to celebrate my birthday. And that never leaves me. I never forget about that. And now, just over, I think maybe a year ago, he found himself in a little bit of difficulty going out of a job, made redundant. And at the time, I was looking for somebody at the last business that I was at. And I reached out to him and I got him an interview. And in the end, I hired him, and he came to work with me, came to work with the company that I was at. And he was part of my UK team. And then within a matter of months, I was made redundant, and he's still at the company. So when he came along on Saturday with his wife, they're both friends of Yvonne and I, we sat at that table, and you know, you might think, oh God, what's that like, sitting at a table with somebody from a company who've been made redundant? Jobs will come and go, but friendships last forever. And you know, it wasn't awkward. I loved sitting there and listening to him telling me about what was going on at the job and how things were, and listening to his success. He's been able to pick up what I built and carry it on, and that just fills me with nothing but pleasure, because that confirms that not only was I a good judge of character, but I was a good judge of an employee. He's still at that company thriving now, and it took me to be made redundant to find myself where I am right now. Now, I'm not going to go round every single person in this picture, because you don't need to know who every one of my friends are, right? It's just a few stories. But the far left-hand corner here is Stephen, and it's his 50th birthday. And I know Stephen because of John, friends that we've had for all of these years. And the last one in this, there's a young man there. There's a young man whose name is Craig, who's recently had a really bad time. He's got a partner, they've had a small child, and Craig is an amazing musician. One of these guys can play you anything. Give him a guitar, can you sing me this? He can knock it out. And he does the club and bar scene round the Ayrshire coast and a little bit further afield when the time comes. He was in a bar many months ago playing a gig, and a man ran in and attacked people in that bar, and he received, whilst on stage singing, a really brutal injury. And I would, without speaking on his behalf, say it's changed his life forever. The man that did it has recently been sentenced to 14 years for this random, vicious attack. This is how quickly life can change. And as I sat there listening to each of my friends' stories, the reason I titled this, "The hardest part about leaving the UK isn't what you think," because it isn't stuff, it isn't a house, it isn't cars, it isn't jobs. It's actually people like this, people that you might not speak to for a period of time, and then you get round that table and you just reconnect again. You reconnect and you feel like the friendship, the love and everything else. There wasn't a person at that table on Saturday that didn't say to Yvonne and I, "If you're ever coming back, if you're in need of anything, you can stay with me." Whew. That makes you really think about all of this. That makes you really think about what you're doing and the pull to stay. Now, if I had my way, if I had my choice in all of this, I would take them all with me, because I just don't think here is where any of us belong right now. I don't think any of us feel wanted here. I don't think we feel valued. I would have us move and have a little community that we could share together, because in that community we all get along. But that's really hard to make work. And despite all of that, I still feel the need to go and have this adventure. But it is incredibly heartwarming, not just from them. We're staying with friends right now who we've known for 15 years, who've given us a home and a roof for 2 weeks while we sort out our lives here. They're included. Friends we'll see this weekend are included. And I talked in a very early video about friendships and online relationships and keeping in touch with people, and some are online and some are in person. And I still believe that. And Saturday just proved that to me. Some of these guys I don't speak to for months, if not maybe years at a time. And then Yvonne and I come home and we're able to just meet up, hang out, and you just go straight back into your old mode of pals, talking about things that we've done in the past, lives that we've led and what's happening now. And that's no different. Now, in the last point of all of this, I'll say this. When my dad was 15, 16, he left home and he went to work on the shows. The Waltzers, went away to work with a family that had a travelling fairground. And he did that for a while. He had that sense of adventure in him that he wanted to get out and do that. My older brother has spent a lot of time travelling around the UK, just getting away from here, getting away from home. My sister lives in Dublin, Ireland, has done for decades now. And I live in England, have done for 13 years. That sense of wanting to get away has lived in this family. So I kind of embraced that a little bit. And in this moment, I think my dad would probably, although he would miss us, he would be excited for what we were doing. And on that last note of that, right, if you've ever heard of the YouTuber, The Critical Drinker, I lay in my bed last night, and as I was trying to separate out the bombardment of news that was coming through, I watched a Critical Drinker video now. If you're familiar with him, he's a Scottish YouTuber that makes movie reviews, and he is world famous. His following is massive. I'm sure you've heard of him. But he made a video last night about Scottish movies, one that's very dear to my heart. And that's the movie Restless Natives. Talked about it here before. And the reason he covered it was because it's a famous Scottish film, and this year is its 40th anniversary. And it took me back to going to the cinema with my dad to see it when it first came out. And I think we went about 3 times. And in the end, the cinema in East Kilbride, the manager gave me the poster. And I had the poster on my wall at home, my bedroom wall. And I've just watched it recently. And what the Critical Drinker mentioned in his review and his discussion about it was that there is this kind of escapism that lives within Scots, within the Scottish, that want to get out of Scotland and go and get out into the world. And that really struck a chord with me last night. I'll leave the description below to go and watch that video and see his review of that movie. But that landed in me last night, and as I sat there, you know, thinking about sitting at that table with friends and the pull to want to stay here versus the need to want to go, but reminding myself that there's a open door to come back and friends who are willing to help you out if you do need to come back, just confirmed to me again that we can go. But it's not the stuff that keeps us here. It's people.